It's time for Cup of Rad, so let's fill your cup with rad pop culture vibes. And now your over-caffeinated hosts, Mike and Katie.
I met him 15 years ago. I was told there was nothing left, no reason, no conscience, no understanding, even the most rudimentary sense of life or death, good or evil, right or wrong. I met this 6-year-old child with this blank, pale, emotionless face and the blackest eyes, the devil's eyes. I spent 8 years trying to reach him, and then another 7 trying to keep him locked up because I realized what living behind those boys' eyes was purely and simply evil. That's right, kids. Today we're cracking open the pumpkin that John Carpenter's Baby Halloween. Last year we watched through the series, all 10 films, including the Rob Zombie reboots. But this year we watched one. The first, the original, the best. But why? Why do we do that?
Well, a new Halloween is coming out.
That's right. And it's doing something a little different.
It's going to be a direct sequel to the original.
Erasing all the sequels that came after it. First off, it's time for Rednesia, where we are going to discuss the original Halloween film. This movie opened the doors for the modern movie slasher in 1978, and when the film graced the screens, we were introduced to the shape that is Michael Myers.
So I only just recently saw this movie when I first started getting into horror genre with you. That was not something I grew up with at all.
Your mother was terrified by it.
My mother is absolutely petrified of Michael Myers.
You can just start that, and then she looks
at his face. It's amazing. I am still amused with how easily I can scare her. We went to Spirit Halloween this year, and we saw the Michael Myers animatronic, and I went and made sure I took a selfie with it, and I made sure I sent it to her because I have to rub it in.
Yeah. Oh, you remember that?
It's still just funny.
You remember that time we printed out that picture and we put it on the bathroom window?
That was amazing. I forgot about that. Yeah. You went and made it so that Michael Myers was looking in the bathroom window. She screamed.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. Even the pint-sized hero.
Yes, she didn't even like that.
Yeah,
the thing is adorable. Yeah. And it was just the essence of Michael Myers was somewhere near her.
Yeah, we watched the first one, getting ready for the new one.
Yes, because we're very excited about that.
Yeah.
Tickets were purchased a few days ago. It's going to be exciting.
With watching it, seeing how the movie opens.
I liked the opening credits.
The music.
It's super simple. It's a weird, eerie ambiance, but it's...
The focus on the pumpkin.
The focus on the pumpkin. It's truly a Halloween feel to it. It's like, no, this is exactly where we're going to be staying focused with the jack-o'-lantern. It wasn't jarring. It was almost the simplicity of it gives it a creepier air. Yeah,
because you just slow zoom in on the pumpkin and you had that classic theme playing.
Exactly. So
you hear it everywhere.
Even more so.
September now. Once September hits, any Halloween store you walk into, it's usually playing in some form. Going ahead with that, it was interesting how you just kind of see how much uneasiness is in that opening scene with
the silence.
The silence, yeah.
When it starts, we almost had that moment where is there something wrong with the TV? Is it supposed to be this quiet? No, it is. It's supposed to give you like something is wrong because it's not normal for it to be that quiet.
Yeah, usually there's background music or all the Foley effects and all that.
Especially now, we would, if it was actually that quiet of a situation, it would have some sort of like
people would be running to the door
sound.
Asking,
and to have that, it gives you this real feeling that something is wrong. And then with the walk around with him having the mask on, it's a very narrowed point of view. It's kind of almost claustrophobic, exactly. Yeah. And so you follow the sense that you can't see around you. It is a weird fear right there. So
then seeing his first murder
so what did you find that was funny with that scene?
I thought it was funny that she ends up holding her breasts.
It's like, don't see my nipples while you stab me to death.
Yeah, right. It was that weird moment where you're like, you wouldn't fucking do that.
I still have my problems. Like, you're gonna yell at him when you literally stripped down and then left your door wide open, and then how dare you look at me?
Yeah.
But it's he has a giant knife, and that's what you're concerned about.
She holds her arm over her breasts the entire time she's being stabbed.
You gotta watch that rating,
You're right. I thought that was quite interesting. But I did like that shot once he comes out and the mom and the dad are like, Michael, and they tear off the mask and you see the little boy, and you can tell that it was supposed to be like a freeze frame, but at the time they didn't have the technology to freeze frame
it
and pan pan back. So then you watch them and you can see them, they're slightly moving, especially the
Michael,
knife.
yeah.
You can see
you can see the knife shaking.
And you can see the light.
Exactly.
The light on the
changes.
knife. The husband seems to stand the stillest. The other two are a little more shaky. So jumping forward into it, it was interesting just watching. You can tell it was in the 70s. It feels like now you'd watch it if you saw a film like that and you'd almost be like, well, this is more like a student film, right?
It's a starting point feel.
Very simplistic in its setup and its shot.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's very effective.
Well, I
adding some eerie because it feels like you're watching from Michael's perspective.
I was
in a lot
gonna
of
say you're watching I'm standing back in the corners and I'm just watching the world happen around me, and I thought that was a cool shot because you're almost being put into his footsteps, and it gives this odd sense that you're just watching things happen around you with no sense of what's actually going on, and they don't pay attention, and it's a weird almost I'm being forgotten feel, right? Just a blankness to it.
Yeah, it kind of gives you a bit of a feeling of what he could be like.
Well, I like even the times when he is showing up because it feels like you're, for lack of better words, almost the peeping Tom feel where you're part of that, and then when you do see where she's not even seeing him and you see him pop up.
Well, yeah, like especially that first shot
watching.
After she drops off that package at the house.
Yeah.
Then you just see over the shoulder, you see his
just coveralls, where you're like the camera's behind him.
Yeah,
right?
and then all you hear is a breathing.
Yes, the breathing was
as she walks
very
away.
clear. So then, especially when it was the silence, then the breathing really came through.
And you don't notice that in the later films. The more you watch, they cut that out. Yeah, and I think that's interesting.
They relied more on the shape and the music and the look of his face rather than the breathing.
And the breathing really gives it an extra creepy. Like, one thing I always think is interesting. People will complain about, well, he's been in an asylum all these lives, and how can he learn how to drive? And I see that, and I think, well, you look and you see, yes,
there's no cars.
There's
around.
no other cars around at all.
None at all.
It's empty streets. He's going
empty
very
intersections.
slow. Yeah.
He's going 5 miles an hour.
Yeah, and he's going down, most often he's going down the middle of the road.
Yes.
The thing that I think people should be more concerned about if they want to gripe on it is the fact of how fucking fast he moves.
Well, right.
That one shot.
That one in the clothesline there?
Yeah.
Where
one minute he's there and she just looks
second,
up and then she's gone. Yeah. That's what you should be more concerned about, because how did he learn how to move so fast?
Yeah. All of a sudden he's a ninja.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. and considering how he actually walks when he's moving around.
He's 6 foot tall and he's just lumbering along.
He's carrying this dead body and he's lumbering. It's not like he's like, I'm going to run around this house and get out of the way. No, I'm just going to plod along here. But, whatever. So the scariest part for me, I think, is the fact that the slow movements and things that happen when he's not on focus. I think the scariest scene is when Laurie thinks that she does kill him and he sits straight up. Yeah. And I think that's one of the scariest shots.
Oh yeah.
In the film.
Because it's a straight up and then it's a slight head turn.
Yeah. Right. Because it's very unnatural looking. Yeah. People don't normally sit up like that, right? I know I skipped really far over to the end of the movie, but
the one thing I like is Ghost Michael.
Oh yeah, the glasses.
His glasses on the outside, because he
looks like a little kid.
Yeah.
So it shows though that even though he's grown up, he's still just a little kid. Yeah. He's 6 years old or whatever.
Exactly.
And that's where he stopped.
Right.
If not before that. Right. So yeah, and just the standing there and the you can't see me feel is what he looks like. If I just don't say anything, no one knows I'm here.
Difference, right?
Yeah.
But if I put that guy's glasses on the outside, then I'm just that guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm in disguise.
Yeah.
I do think that it was kind of cool at the end after Loomis ends up shooting him and Laurie's all like, is the boogeyman, right? And he basically just is like, yes. He's the boogeyman.
Loomis is great because I feel bad for the man because he has tried so much to tell everyone, like, no, this guy is fucking horrible.
Yeah.
He is scary. He is the most evil thing I have ever experienced. And the man is aged. He would have experienced some pretty crazy people in his life. And for him to say, like, this guy is scary, you need to be concerned, I am concerned, and everyone's like, oh, whatever, everything's cool.
Yeah. How bad could it be?
Now all those murders are on your hands because no one listened to him. I feel bad for him, but I like that there's nothing but bluntness. No, he's evil. Yep. If you think he is. Yeah,
exactly. The ending I thought was kind of cool. The fact that he disappears, you just hear the breathing as
I love that he gets stabbed once and he sits there for so long. He gets shot like 6 times and he's gone in a flash.
Yeah.
It's like he was more shocked at first from that one that he wasn't expecting to actually get
Maybe
hit.
that's what it was. A bit
And
of a
maybe
sun.
you know, whatever he is.
But you got shot out a
supernatural or
window,
whatnot.
and you know.
Yeah, he goes flying out of a balcony, lands on the ground after
Yeah.
he's shot, and there's no blood on the grass, is there?
No.
No, there is none. So
There's no real blood
There's
in
no
the
blood
whole
really
movie.
in the movie.
I think the R rating actually comes more from the sex scenes.
yes, because it's not horribly far off from possibly being able to show our son at some point in the next few years, except for the sex scenes.
Yeah, it's pretty dry. There's those
Watching
those
it really
murders.
late unfortunately made it hard to stay awake a little bit.
But yeah, you watch it and you see it's crafted pretty well and they didn't rely on gore.
No.
It's pretty sad to see
It's
the
the
dog
ambiance
die.
and the creepy.
But he strangles Annie out, and that's pretty tame.
Yeah.
The other couple murders weren't graphic.
No, it's just the sex.
Yeah.
Because it was...
And the innuendos,
And it's
sexual
something,
innuendos.
lots of sexual innuendos, and you can't get around that sex scene, too.
Without fast forwarding.
Yeah, there's no unexplaining
boobs.
that world, right? And so that's really the only thing. Otherwise, it's quite dry. It's quite simple, but it shows that legend almost that it has created, that even watching it back, it's even creepier than it might have been. And to see what was scary when it came out, and then versus what is scary now in a new movie. Like a movie of that nature would never fly as a new movie.
No.
And
I don't even think I don't think it would fly as an independent movie.
no, because it's so simple and it is dry, but it's what we have created for it now that still allows that to be creepy for us.
I think that's where people get let down then when they try to make all these sequels they've made is that, I remember this. I remember the Boogeyman, and it scared me because a lot of people then watched them when they were younger.
Yes.
When you watch them as an adult, you can kind of sit back and go, well, that wasn't as scary as I remember.
Exactly.
Right. But if you were scared of it as a child, then you're
and that's
scarred.
what I think with my mom. She always found him scary from the very beginning. She's never been able to let that go.
Yeah. She did make through all 10 movies last year with us.
She did.
The Rob Zombie ones, I think, scarred her pretty bad. But besides that,
she's gotten better for sure. That music is definitely, I think, more iconic than anything.
And it was crafted perfectly. John Carpenter made an amazing score for that film. Really to work out well with it.
It really stands out.
Yeah.
And even because nowadays it's hard to really find themes from something that really stands out.
That's true. So. Yeah, themes have disappeared from movies. See, it's very rare unless the Marvel stuff. They've built their theme up over 18 movies,
right?
Versus
there's
being
more
instead of being
action,
here's
superhero stuff.
That's why that thing stuck out.
So, Mike,
right?
how would you rate this movie? How full is your
I
cup?
still think it's a 4 out of 5.
Yeah.
It's very rad.
Classic, enjoyable.
As much as we say it was dry, I still really like it. I like the story. I like the simplicity of the basic slasher. It's not gut churning, grotesque.
Yeah.
It's just
it doesn't make me all squeamish and jump.
Halloween movie, a horror
it's just
movie.
Spooky.
Yeah, and it's
spooky.
creepy and it's eerie and it's basically kind of that tale of watch out because some things
do your job when you're supposed to be watching children.
Right? Yeah.
That's what you know what? I mean, other than the sex part, if I had a teenage daughter at some point and be like, you're going to babysit? Yeah. You watch this movie.
Yeah.
This is what you do. You pay attention to your job.
Well, yeah, Lori saves those kids, so it shows she was doing her job.
Right? So I really enjoyed it again. I was glad we got to watch it, and I'm really excited for the new one.
Yeah, we're going to go see the new one. It's directed by David Gordon Green and written by Green and Danny McBride, which is a little wild to see.
It's totally shocking, for sure. I think of crude-ass humor.
Right, Your Highness.
Yes.
So
that will always scar me, I think, with him.
The Minotaur penis. But it's produced by Blumhouse and Universal. It'll be interesting to see that. Coming up next, you've been warned, but there be
spoilers ahead. Do you know I prayed every day that he would escape so that I could kill him?
That's right, kids. We went and saw Halloween, the new one, in theaters, and it was awesome. Amazing.
Totally awesome. I enjoyed every moment of it.
Yeah, it's been a long time actually since I have wanted to go back and watch the movie instantly. There's been movies we've seen this year that I was excited for the disc when it dropped
you're like,
to watch.
I'm excited to watch it in a few months.
Yeah,
but I can go watch it again.
I was like, when can we see this next?
Who else can we go and bring?
Right, because it's fucking rad.
Right?
Like it is. It
the whole time I was laughing with the oh my gosh, and I was like, oh, they did that, and I jumped. numerous times.
It's a true sequel to the original that stands out of everything they tried to do before, and it worked.
Yeah, worked really well. It kept a lot of that old feel. So.
Yeah, it was one of those ones where it felt deserving of it.
Yes.
And they really crafted something that was fantastic.
It was an excellent look at the legacy for it, but also a new version for the current time.
Yeah.
It showed a good update almost for it.
Yeah, and with our current times, without being too political in any way, but still just being a great movie. It's not, I felt it wasn't just a great horror movie, but it was a great movie.
Yeah. And if you took the violence and the horrific nature out, it was good drama.
Well acted.
It was very
Jamie
well
Lee
acted.
Curtis was phenomenal in that.
She's great.
She put on a great.
You can tell she likes that character and really believes that it needed that sequel.
Exactly. So for me, my cup was completely full. It was a 5 out of 5. Totally rad. I had really no complaints about it. Now it's your time to pause or stop if you haven't seen it, because coming up we're gonna spoil the fuck out of this thing. Get ready.
So from very beginning there,
it just started right in.
It just starts right in
with the being at the asylum.
Yes, that was unnerving.
Yeah.
To begin with, and you weren't quite sure what was going on, where it was going to begin, where Michael was going to show up, and then with those journalists out there.
Yeah,
when they walk out that big open yard, and it's like these cordoned off areas with the inmates staying in these squares, little quarantine squares. You kept waiting for Michael to turn around. He's looking at the journalist is begging him to turn around
to look at that mask.
But the creepiness comes from all the other inmates just
reaction to that mask,
out,
just losing their shit over that mask.
Very much so.
And that was terrifying just to see.
Right? And you wonder, like, do they know about it? Were they aware of it before? What type of sense do they get from it to explain as to why they freaked out with it?
Right. Each and every one, they all kind of had just like a freak out completely.
Yeah.
But Michael's just standing there all stoic, not moving a muscle.
Yeah, he didn't move anything. He looked like he was going to turn around. He just kept hoping
they had
at the same
camera
time
kind of like
he would turn.
Yeah, and they wanted you to have that feeling.
Yeah,
but
then he just never did.
To.
So it was kind of cool that he didn't. They never broke that.
Because they wanted
throughout
to
the whole movie. He didn't actually talk as much as they wanted you to.
They just kept asking him to talk. The opening credits was
was
fantastic.
Amazing. It was a great homage to the original credits, but then showing almost that reverse aspect of going back in time with that kind of almost, let's go back to where we started, but we're moving forward with it. I thought it was a really interesting take on what they did with that. So
yeah, that was really cool, and the music was so simple too, right? It was very much,
because when it first started at the asylum, I was like, okay, well, we're going to take it with something new and something different, you know. But then when they still did cut to that sequence, it was great.
Well, then you go right into seeing old Laurie and seeing where she's at.
Oh, because it was the journalist, then they go and they're trying to track her down.
Yeah, they're going to try to track her down. That's what it is.
So then that's how they bring it together. They start with Michael, then they have the journalist coming in to go and see her.
Yeah.
I like that she was at least welcome to talk to them, but it was still very
It was
blunt.
a no shit attitude.
It was you don't, what else do I have to tell you?
Yeah.
You guys don't believe me that we should be so afraid of him, and it's your loss, but that's all I can say.
Well, the moment he mocks her for about the boogeyman aspect.
Yeah, then it was like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
I know what's going on. You don't seem to care. You don't seem to honestly believe this is serious. Then, unfortunately, they learned the hard way that he was.
They did.
Just absolutely terrifying. That was disgusting.
Well,
scene
yeah.
in the bathroom, but it was well done.
Oh yeah.
With her getting killed, the journalist there.
Well, it was pretty brutal. Watching that was a pretty brutal scene. This movie here, Michael kills more people than he did in twice over in the first one, which is impressive. What is happening in this is the story is that he's being moved from this asylum to another one, and on the bus you cut to a son and a father. They're going out hunting, and all of a sudden they almost run over an inmate, and
they saw that was a creepy scene with them just wandering around all lost.
The bus had crashed and all these inmates were walking out on the road.
So the dad goes out and tries to help and see what's going on, and then the son's calling 911, asks them if everything's okay. He goes out to check on anyone, and he has a shotgun, and he goes on to
a rifle,
sorry, and he goes on to the bus and
shoots the doctor,
the psychiatrist there on on accident out of, panic. But then he gets back in the vehicle and you think everything's going to be okay. And lo and behold, Michael's in the backseat, of course.
They fucking
and they
choke
killed
out a child.
It was brutal.
Choked out a fucking 9-year-old.
But it makes sense for it, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
I was just like, oh God, that's how we're going to start, huh?
Yeah, that set the tone for it. That showed you that Michael...
That was his first kill when he got out. That you saw, right?
Yeah, you saw.
Obviously, he killed many other people to get out of there, but
yeah, that was
intense.
Intense. And after that, we got to play a lot with those old shots from John Carpenter.
Yes.
Where you're at a gas station, and in the background, Michael is there, and the journalist.
That the vehicles driving around, and they're just right there, and you're just like, he's right there, turn around.
Right.
So that was really cool.
Pretty cool. But yeah, when he goes in and he drops those teeth, even though we saw that in the trailer, it still was really creepy.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, because then you saw how he got the teeth and all that.
Yeah.
That guy's jaw was just all sideways. Yeah. Oh.
That was pretty
so
bad.
Yeah, so I think it was interesting because then when you get into the hospital there with the doctor and the sheriff is there, and it's like, wait a second, no, something's wrong here, and he recognizes that name and he knows
he sees on the manifest. Yep.
He has that automatic panic.
Well, you find out the cop was there in the original one.
He was the one that stopped him, Loomis from killing Michael to begin with.
Yeah.
Apparently greatest regret for sure. And
yeah.
He at least cares and understands the seriousness of the nature, right?
Back at the gas station, when Michael goes and gets his mask from the trunk of the car after he kills the two journalists.
Yeah. Right? It made sense how he got everything, how he got the new suit, the blue suit, how he got the
mechanic,
mask.
and then but when he got that mask, that shot up from the trunk of the car.
Yes.
Like that, just and then that music flared, and then the closing, that was an awesome shot.
It was like, okay, I'm back.
Right? So that was really cool. It was kind of cool. You still had the people that were like, no, it's just a guy, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah, well, everything's going to be fine.
And then Lori finds out and she's freaking out. It's interesting to see that she had so much PTSD from it all.
Yeah.
From that initial attack. And they make jokes almost to it of why couldn't she just get over it? I don't think anyone would know what it would feel like unless they were in that situation.
And
how
she was
someone
the only one
react 40 years later.
Well, yeah, and she was the only one there. And I think what was most scary about it is that he did seem like he should have died. So, it is that, why should I believe that everything's going to be fine?
Right. And they even have those tapes. They show Loomis saying that they need to
the only way to get rid of him is to kill him immediately, incinerate the body. He was terrified.
Yeah. So that was crazy to hear. So it was wild to have that moment. But yeah, Halloween night starts. She's got a daughter and a granddaughter.
Yeah, you find out that there's a very strange relationship there, but it makes sense. I mean, if her daughter grew up in super toxic, terrified, I'm scared of the world, I have to prevent and learn how to shoot a gun and
shoot a gun, panic, all that stuff she talks about.
That's not a safe childhood.
Yeah, she was taken away from her. So
she's right to be worried about her mom because that's all her mom ever talks about. But it was interesting to see that the granddaughter wasn't just, my grandma's crazy. It was like, why can't we help her? Why can't we what's going on, right?
Yeah.
But then Halloween starts, and one of my favorite shots, you see the lady in the living room, and she knows, you can tell she's just been warned that something's wrong, and you see Michael just walk around the side of the house, and the camera doesn't move. It doesn't move. And he just shows up behind her in the house.
Go through the
that's
window,
it, and then he leaves.
Then he plunges the knife in her neck, in the head.
That was brutal.
That was a pretty brutal kill, but that was a brilliant setup, and it led to the Carpenter style shooting from the original, when it was just like that. The camera parks itself
and you just see what's going on.
You see the shadowing, you see him move through other windows, and that was such a cool way of doing it.
Definitely.
From that, the next one I thought that was really cool was the babysitter one,
that they nodded to that, that guy, the back from the babysitter murders.
And that was cool. One of the original proposed titles.
Exactly.
Right?
So you felt bad for the teenagers, I think, because I didn't have too much of a connection when you watched the original.
Well, they were
didn't really
kind
care.
of bitchy.
You're like, oh God, I'm kind of glad that you're not speaking anymore. And it sounds bad, but she was irritating. And this, you feel bad for her. Well,
she
was a good
nice.
babysitter.
She was really nice to the kid.
She cared about the kid. The kid, you felt bad. The boyfriend wasn't a douche, Nope. They were decent guys, decent people. And you feel bad.
They were going to smoke some weed and maybe have some sex.
Yeah.
But
No. Drive.
Yeah.
We're not gonna have sex in this.
No,
we're gonna drive fast.
There was no nudity.
There was no sex.
And no sex.
Just the flashback to his sister and that was it. So that was really interesting and really sad to see them go, but it was a cool nod to the original back that was still what he was doing.
When you saw him moving around through.
Oh, and that was scary with the boogie. I thought it was interesting. The poor kid here is like specifically explaining it, and you know he saw him because the way he describes it, and you're like, oh fuck, he's in that house somewhere, but where is he?
Right.
You know, he can make so much noise, but then when he wants to be quiet, he is silent.
Yeah, well, they set up a lot of scenes, especially with the clothesline and all that. You're just waiting for him to pop out. Or you could see the slight glint of the mask.
Or you thought maybe he was going to be in the garage.
Yeah.
The boy goes over there. You're like, okay, did he think something was wrong? And then he's just out there fucking around, you know? But guess what's back, Mike, that you super like?
The breathing. I noticed it a lot in when we watched it again last night, but I remember not seeing that throughout the others. But yeah, the breathing was very predominant again for Michael in this, which I thought was really great to see that full connection, especially with just watching it.
And I really liked how they started developing the granddaughter's character, you know, seeing her at the different parts of the party and everything, and you know, and then when she's wandering around the neighborhood with a friend, and there was a bit of humor with that and everything, and then when she leaves, the death of her friend there was just that whole scene in the yard when he's just standing there over by the tree.
The like, kid's like ripped. He's totally drunk, and so he's trying to be nice and property. Talking, and the guy, and then the lights, the guy in that owns the place,
and
hiding in the dark.
Yeah, and then when he ends up
motion sensor lights.
Oh, and then I'm glad that she came back when he started screaming. I mean, it's sad that she found him like that, but that was just brutal.
Right, they hit the fence up through his face.
Yeah, but you know, then that it worked because they were looking for her, and otherwise she wouldn't have been found because she actually did get into a neighbor's house, which was great. Someone actually did help her, and she did get away. But yeah, that was
one thing
intense.
else with that scene. The music I thought was kind of cool. It took a bit of a turn. It still had the Halloween theme in it, but they created a new almost theme that was played a few more times through it that had like a emergency horn kind of feel.
Yeah, it reminded us of the Purge.
The Purge horn.
Yeah.
Right, that.
It's kind of jarring.
Yeah, but it was like it was edgy feeling and kind of moved it forward in a different, because this one here is it literally has that. Well, yeah, it's familiar, but
there's something different.
We're
going up.
Dark.
We're ramping up.
This felt like an R-rated movie.
Yes.
Right. That's how intense it was.
R-rated, yes.
Right. So
you don't feel like Michael is specifically searching out Laurie. You feel like there's a connection only, but because of what she sees as a connection. Her whole life has been about protecting herself and her family members for this, what she believes is an inevitable moment. But there is no clear cut. It's not like I'm broken out of my prison and now I'm going to go hunt Laurie down for my unfinished business. He was just like, I'm going to wander around, just kill whoever gets in my way.
Yeah, that's what I thought was interesting.
And it leads all to Laurie and the family members, but it's by a weird circumstance, you know, because, so they have the granddaughter, he's in that neighborhood. Well, the cop goes and picks up the granddaughter with the doctor trying to hunt them down, and then they're heading out to Laurie's place where the parents are.
They get an eye on Michael.
She spots Michael, and Hawkins doesn't. He's like, I'm not going to lose it. He rams him.
He nails him with the truck. It was fantastic.
It was like, no, I'm not gonna make this mistake again. And total 180 shift.
Huge spoiler.
Yes. Like, it was insane. They go out there and the doctor's freaking out saying, you can't kill him. You can't kill him. He's property of the state.
And the Hawkins is like, I'm going to fucking do this. Right? I'm not making this mistake again. I'm going to fucking kill this guy.
I was going to say Loomis, but the doctor.
He's basically Loomis. They make a comment, you're the new Loomis.
He learned from, he was Loomis's student.
Yeah.
But he did not have enough humility of how much this evil should have been gotten rid of. He wanted to know why.
He wanted to learn.
He was so desperate to know the reasoning why as to what he did and why he wouldn't talk and what motivated him, that he ended up stabbing and killing the cop because he did not want Michael to die. And he wanted to know what it felt like to kill someone. Yeah. And he puts the fucking mask on.
Yeah, and at this point, my mind is thinking, holy shit, they actually just killed Michael Myers, and now this crotchety old doctor is going to finish the movie?
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
That was my first thought.
Firstly, I was like,
it was shocking.
I could handle this. Okay, this is the direction they're going. Okay, fine.
You can see it's going to move forward.
I'm digging it enough that this hasn't destroyed it for me.
That would have been cool. The only thing I cared about was it wasn't enough of an ending or closure for the other characters. So if they'd actually killed Michael, it would have been like, okay, well, that was a bit of a letdown for everyone else. Yeah. That was my concern.
After all, he's already been shot that night and a truck
you're like, really? That's it? Seriously? But then when he ended up putting Michael in the back seat with the granddaughter.
Mask and the granddaughter.
Poor thing's locked in the back of this sheriff's, truck.
Yep.
And he takes the mask off, gives it to Michael in the seat. He's passed out, of course. And you're like, okay, no, he just wanted to taste this, but he's still fucking crazy.
Yeah.
And so he's just going to move forward with it. And then they start driving out towards the house still.
Laurie's
and
place.
Michael wakes up.
Yep.
And of course, what does he do? He breaks out. He kicks open the forward the front seat and kills the doctor. And in one of the most brutal.
He kills him enough
he
that
knocks him out.
Gets out.
He gets him out. And one of the most
and the
brutal
doctor's
ones.
just screaming, "Talk! Why won't you talk?
And
Talk to me!"
Just
boots
him in
his head.
And it explodes
to mush.
and it's just running all over the road and it's horrific. But then there's other cops there and they see something's weird, but then the granddaughter takes off running through the forest, and unfortunately then everyone starts dying around him because now Michael's on the loose again. But then back at the house, the poor dad, he doesn't understand that he needs to stay inside. The seriousness
of it.
Yeah, and so he goes outside, and consequence is
he gets choked out.
Yeah. Then it's just that battle between Laurie and Michael.
Yeah, through the whole thing.
I thought that was interesting with the house. She was so concerned about protecting and barriers herself, and then she's got 2 glass windows in the front door, which provided that perfect opportunity. Little things that you still don't think about. No matter how prepared you are, you can't be prepared for everything. Right. And then he still managed to just reach around. Yeah,
I was worried. I was
worried. It's like, that going to be the end? Holy shit!
They're going to do it, right? But then when she blows off his hand,
that was intense. Well, because it was cool because then he had a bit of a marker of him walking around, right?
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting ploy when she gets into that room and she finds the dad there in the closet, dead, and it's like, wait a second, was that the blood that she was following around? Yeah. You know, and it was this.
Well, she had the whole place set up so much that she'd clear a room and hit a button, and it would lock it down with a big
That was cool.
Like a security gate.
Yeah, I was like, okay, I cleared the area, so I know where I don't have to worry about.
Keep moving on.
Yeah, that was intense.
And the thing I did like though was, Michael gets her in that room, he throws her around, chucks her off the window.
Yeah. She lands there on the grass.
And then he's looking down at her, and then the granddaughter comes in.
So he grabs his attention.
He looks away, and then when he looks back, she's gone. And at that moment, I knew, wait, something else is up. Now it's changed.
Yes.
Laurie is now in the hunter.
Yes.
And Michael's become the prey.
Exactly.
Right.
And something was different with that.
Yeah.
And her daughter, meanwhile, is still downstairs in their panic room. So then they're still out there. She gets the granddaughter downstairs.
In the panic room.
And it was interesting because then Michael realizes, wait a second, they're hiding from me. Somehow he actually figures out that he needs to move that counter. But
he probably heard it.
It shows, though, that he's mindless, not mindless. He's quiet and silent, but he is not dumb.
Yeah.
He is very much aware. He's strong and he's brutal. But he still is aware of his surroundings. I mean, who knows? He felt where the floor was or the sound or anything like that. Deducted where that was, knocks over the counter.
But what was awesome was all of a sudden the mom freaks out and saying she can't do it. Help me, mommy. I need your help.
She's totally freaking out because he knocks the counter over and then pulls away. It's the idea of his intelligence. He's waiting for them to come out and seek him out and to give herself away, right? And so she's sitting there crying and freaking out.
And so he shows up in the doorway
because she's all she's
scared.
She's scared. I've got the upper hand, and she shoots
him in the neck.
Oh, that was fantastic! Because immediately her face changes and it's like, fuck you. I know what I'm doing.
Judy Greer did a great job in that
She
role.
did fantastic. Totally switched it, and you could tell. I was like, oh yeah, that's Laurie's daughter right there. She was listening to everything.
All that thing she was scared of prepping for ended up saving her life.
Yeah, because otherwise she would have panicked and she would have died. Yeah. Because she would not have known what to do. She wouldn't have known how to protect herself. Yep. She would have been screaming. She wouldn't have listened. And then Laurie shows up again, and they still have their battle, and they're able to push him down into that panic room there, and they get out.
Yeah. The one thing though is that the granddaughter ends up having to stab his arm a whole bunch to try to free her mom.
Pulling rear. And I thought it was cool too because Laurie had said, all this time you thought that this was my cage. Yeah. And then he just dropped it from there, and you're like, wait a second, what happened? They finally get out, and what happens? It turns into a cage for Michael. Yep. They hit this other button, and these spikes show up, and it's like, wait, no, this was the whole plan along. She really was the hunter. Yep. And it was a giant trap.
Yep. Trying to get him in there. Then they light it on fire.
She had this thing elaborately planned. Yeah. Gas and flames everywhere and lighters and everything. But what was the problem? Did you ever see Michael on fire?
No.
No, you did not. You never saw him touched with the flame.
No, you never saw that.
Which is very unnerving, and that's going to come back.
Yeah, because you never saw his mask burning. You never saw him burning. You just saw him in the flames, but then it was just the rest of the house was on fire as they escaped.
And so they're in this truck and they've hitchhiked a ride out of there, and
they're all in the back of the truck.
The granddaughter still has the knife.
Is holding onto the knife, and that's how the movie ends, is with a close up on that knife and her gripping that knife.
So it's interesting, like, how is that PTSD trauma going to pass on then?
Yeah.
Is Laurie, because the doctor says, is the urgency, that unfinished business idea, are they tied together and kind of keeping each other alive?
Yeah.
So is Laurie going to be okay and actually be able to calm down?
Yeah.
And will she eventually die? Is that the passing on of the trauma almost?
Yeah, you wonder.
Or what exactly is going to happen? Because her granddaughter saw two of her best friends have now been murdered.
Yeah.
Well, three of them now. The other in front of her, she saw that. All these people have died. Her dad also. Let's not forget about her dad. Now is died and burnt, and these horrific things. And so now what's going to lie forward, right?
Like that's where you wonder, because with that being almost that nod to 4 and 5, where the Danielle character in the little clown suit ends up being a problem, right?
Yeah. So are they going to take that type of route?
Yeah. Is it gonna be spawn off to be that nod to those ones where like she's going to become the killer?
Yeah, but they've been a better finishing for Laurie.
Yeah. That'll be the curious thing. Or is Michael truly alive, and it will just become, because they've already said there's going to be a sequel.
Yeah. Okay.
They said there's not going to be.
How they're going to explain how he gets out of that fire?
That is if it turns out, or if they're going to try to twist it into something different. Who knows? But for me, this was a satisfying sequel. I enjoyed this one much more. Even I could say I enjoyed it more than the original, but it is tag team like this.
Well, it was definitely much more action packed. It was very exciting. It was very. I mean, it had false scares in it, just loud jumping noises where my whole body convulsed. Like it almost was kind of painful. It was the jump, but some great ambiance for it. Right. It wasn't just ambiance though. There was actual true horror and the bit of violence. And, well, obviously, let's be violent. Stabbing people through the head, the neck, and everything. Jaws ripped out and whatnot.
But it wasn't over the top.
It wasn't grotesque.
Yeah.
And drawn out. Yeah. So definitely, apparently, the boogeyman does exist.
It does. So make sure, kids, to turn on that nightlight, because there's a reason we're supposed to be afraid of this night.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, and as always, look at us on all our social media and tell us how we're doing or what you want to hear. But we're very excited for what we watched, and we're looking forward to November.
Excellent.
More movies coming out, so keep your cup ready so we can fill it with some rad.
Thank you for listening. Love this episode of Cup of Rad? Please subscribe, rate us, and give us a review. Also, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter for more rad content.